remember the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, that is their economy in Northern Virginia. That is a real impact. And it is remarkable, and it kind of speaks to kind of the brash, nonsensical political gamesmanship of Donald Trump and Republicans, that going into a tight gubernatorial race in Virginia, they would be willing to disrupt a key part of the electorate when a governorship was on the line. They knew what they were doing, and they just decided to kind of self-sabotage and allow themselves to take the blame, because Republicans are getting the blame for this now. Now, how does it translate out at this point now? Are we 5 weeks into it? I will tell you, in a state of Florida, far removed from the federal workforce, although certainly we have some pockets that were immediately hit. Now you are starting to see the economic anxiety around food security, around access to health care, and honestly, the disruption of personal life. It becomes the personal travel and some of the disruption of federal services. Now you're seeing that. And so the question becomes, who is going to bear the blame? And for a lot of voters, it's all the politicians, right? If you don't perform in a hyper-partisan way, you don't quite understand why it shut down, you're just ticked off that it shut down. But we do know statistically, most people are blaming Republicans because they control everything. And nobody they somehow say, like, we're in charge, but we're not really in charge of the situation. Yeah, you are. Go find the 60 votes. Republicans control the White House, the Senate, and the House. The majority of voters know that, and they're going to blame Republicans for the emerging economic anxiety that is real. Joy, in the state of Florida, 51% of the state does not have enough savings to last for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. They cannot absorb a healthcare disruption, a disruption to their access to food, a disruption, a car breaking down. 51% of the state is what we call asset limited but employed. They don't have savings. As you start to see those communities get hit, those are middle class communities, not just what we sometimes talk about, the lower income class. Those are emerging middle class communities now being hit with the anxiety of a government shutdown.
Yeah, it is getting rough out there. I just want to note that Mayor Andre Dickens, easily reelected as mayor of Atlanta. That race is over as well. We are still watching to see what happens with some of these other races in Virginia. There was also an attorney general race that's pretty important. It'd be a lieutenant governor race. Also, we're still waiting on that as well. So things are starting to roll in. Mark, to you as well, because
Gary is backstage.
One of the things that I think seems relatively important is the positioning of governors vis-a-vis the Trump administration when it comes specifically to immigration. And it seems like that issue, and I'm going to come back to you on this a little bit, David, too, but to start with you, Mark, because it does seem like the message that people like Abigail Spanberger are giving, that they will stand up to this administration when it comes to things like immigration, when it comes to things like the federal workforce. That seemed to have been a winning message. I can report now that Democrat Ghazala Hashmi has also been declared the winner. NBC News declaring Ghazala Hashmi as the winner of the lieutenant governor race in the state of Virginia. She makes history. I do believe she will be the first Muslim, period, or maybe just first Muslim woman to be lieutenant governor of the state of Virginia. So she's a history-making candidate. Let's bring in Gary Chambers Jr. I want to add him to this panel just to talk about kind of the overall feeling that you have, Gary. Good to see you as always. On what we're seeing tonight, we now see Abigail Spanberger elected governor-elect in Virginia, the lieutenant governor, the Democrat running. Jay Jones, we're still waiting. Jay Jones is running slightly ahead, about 2 points ahead of Jason Miyares in Virginia. I'm just going to keep refreshing and refreshing and refreshing. That seems to be held up. There was that text message controversy that he faced that had the Democratic Party afraid to openly really endorse him. They didn't really know what to do about him. What do you make of everything that you're seeing tonight, Gary?
I think that voters are showing that they feel and hear the pressures of today, and that they want to see a difference and somebody to stand up against what we see happening in Washington. I heard what Jolly said a few seconds ago about people at different points of the economy feeling the pressure at different levels. That makes people reconsider their vote all the time. That makes people say, you know, are you on my side? Are you working against me? And I think that the average American who's not locked into politics doesn't care about a lot of the nuanced things that we care about. What they do care about is, did you do the things that you said you would do? And I think 10, 11 months into the Trump presidency, people have evaluated that conservatives are full of it, that they don't have a governing strategy, and that they need to elect leadership that wants to be responsible. Now, I think the challenge for Democrats at this point is people are not looking for vacillating leadership. They want to see leaders that go fully after an agenda. They want to see people who fight back. They also want to see people who are after working class issues, right? So if you campaigned on it, now's the time to make it happen. It's not time to get mealy mouth and not know how to move an issue or an agenda forward. If people are watching Donald Trump strong arm the United States Congress and the United States Senate, we don't want to hear excuses in your state legislature. We want to see you be able to move an agenda and figure out how do you get something done for working class people. Otherwise, we end up back in this topsy-turvy environment again, because voters are looking for someone who they believe will yield a result. The absence of that result causes them to vote in a different direction.
Yeah, Donald Trump rocking about 33% approval ratings, David Jolly, in this moment. Take us back to when you were in the United States House of Representatives, because one of the things that people presume about people in politics, that we all have an ego, but it takes a certain amount of ego to believe you can represent an entire district, let alone an entire state, let alone the entire country. And so you would think and presume that members of Congress would jealously guard the greatest power that they were given under the Constitution, which is the power of the purse. I mean, it really is the thing that particularly House members tend to prize. You know, everyone wants to be on appropriations because it's such a powerful position. But what we've seen is Republicans hand the power of the purse to the White House, which is something generally you would think they would never do, because just their own ego would say, we're the ones who keep this checkbook, not you. But they seem to have given it away without a fight. What is going on?
Yeah, Joy, the Congress has collapsed. And I say that with heartbreak, and we should all consider that with heartbreak. It's easy to say, look, Republicans have done this to themselves, but the Congress has collapsed, and we need a strong Congress. I mean, consider the entire design of our government was that these branches would be kind of wrestling with each other continuously for power, and it would ebb and it would flow. But what we have seen for 200 years almost is the Congress fighting for its share of the power while the executive is reaching for theirs. And honestly, since the Iraq War and 9/11, we have seen the executive branch try to grab as much power as it can through different iterations and different national crises. And then Donald Trump has just come in like a king and said, I'm going to take it all for myself. This is the time when we need, now more than ever, a Congress, regardless of party, to stand up for the institutional significance of the Congress, right? The reason Trump is getting away with this is not because he wants to, it's because the Congress is letting him. The Congress has collapsed. And so, yes, we should litigate the president every shot we got, because we need to help as a nation lead a conversation about whether or not the president is acting with fidelity to the Constitution and to the office. But we also need to be litigating every single member of Congress who's letting him get away with this or trying to hold him account. I think the Republicans in Congress know they are in so much trouble. That's why instead of changing their positions, they're trying to change the maps. They're gerrymandering not just because they can, they're doing it because they're trying to save their jobs, because they're so out of step historically with what people expect the Congress to be. Look, legacies are being shaped right now every single day by Republican members of Congress. I am proud to no longer be a Republican member of Congress, but I'm probably prouder to no longer be a Republican in this moment. There's good reason why I left.
Yeah, I can see why. And the weird thing about it is, Mark Thompson, it puts us now in a position as people who care about ordinary people being able to survive in this country, and not just the billionaires who are funding elections and buying politicians and, you know, taking judges on free trips to make sure that they stay on side as well. We end up being the states' rights side, weirdly enough, because you actually need strong states in order to stand up. What do you make of the fact that in the state of Virginia, it seems that the governor and lieutenant governor cleared the bar pretty easily, but you're going to probably need someone to litigate on behalf of the state if you want to fight back on behalf of the people of Virginia. Jay Jones is barely hanging on. His lead right now, 50.5% to 49.1% versus Jason Miyares, who is a MAGA Republican and would likely not litigate on behalf of the state of Virginia's workers, federal workers, et cetera, or protect abortion rights or any of the things that Democrats seem to want. What do you make of the fact that he's barely hanging on at this point? I'm going to get Gary in on this for just a second, but let me go back to the New Jersey race. Also fairly tight. Well, I mean, we don't really know how it's going to turn out. At the moment, Mikey Sherrill, the Democrat, leading with 59.8% of the vote. Jack Ciattarelli with 39.7% of the vote, but only 30% of votes are in. So that does not tell you how this is going to play out. This was looking to be probably the tightest of the races for Democrats tonight. One of the things that I think a lot of folks were originally hoping was that Ross Baraka would be the nominee because he would electrify the base more. He would get more excitement among the base. But Mikey Sherrill is holding her own right now. But a lot of what I'm seeing out in the state, Newark, which is the stronghold for Democrats in the state, is pretty much in. Atlantic City is pretty much in. About 37% of Atlantic City are in. Some of the red areas, the Jack Chitterelli strongholds, only 48% of Ocean County, which is a stronghold for Republicans. That is not fully in. Only 37% of Warren County, which is one of the redder districts, is in. But one of the biggest strongholds for the Democrat, for Mikey Sherrill, would be Essex County, only 36% of that in. So we're just going to keep watching. I'm just going to keep refreshing and refreshing and refreshing until we see how that goes, because that one, what's at stake there is that Jack Chitterelli has vowed to remove the sanctuary state designation for New Jersey, which would essentially open up that state to cooperation between the police in New Jersey and ICE. And right now, New Jersey has been holding strong as a sanctuary state. And I can tell you that my sourcing today was saying that a lot of police officers in the state of New Jersey want it to remain that way because it would make their job extremely difficult if they were cooperating openly with ICE. Good luck trying to get cooperation and community policing to function, because it really won't work if people believe you're with the kidnappers. Gary, how do we get people to start thinking a little more strategically when it comes to these elections? You don't get the person you wanted in the primary, and now you're faced with a general election where it's a lesser of two evils. We just saw a race in New Orleans in which a candidate was sort of thrown aside because of flaws and sort of legal issues in his past, and now people are complaining about who won.
You know, I think that if Zohran Mamdani is successful in New York, it will show that if you are willing to go and engage people in non-traditional ways, or really the old school way, and knock on doors, engage with people in the community, talk to people where they are. A year ago, he was on the street talking to New Yorkers who didn't vote, people who were not participating in the process, some who voted for Trump, and he was having meaningful dialogue with them. I think that we've got to stop this logic that you can throw TV ads on, radio ads on, fly by in the community and turn a vote that you haven't engaged in an authentic way. And Democrats have not done that legwork. And I think that legwork has to happen at every level, because people are living their lives. Like Reverend Mark just said that, you know, he's reaching out to family in Virginia because people are going about their day. They're doing their thing. They're raising their kids. They're in school. They're working their 9 to 5. And government is an afterthought, right? And if that's an afterthought, how do I come into your community and get you to see the things that the government should be doing for you that it's not doing, and how I can help make that happen in this role? And I think the absence of doing that is the absence of the energy. I think that the energy that we want to see happen within communities isn't going to fabricate out of thin air. It's not going to happen because you had a rally with a celebrity come in. It's not going to happen because you had a bunch of pop stars retweet you. It's going to happen because you came in the community, had a conversation with people, and Miss Jackie and Mr. John decided that you were worth their time to go down the street and give you a vote.
And David, this is instructive for you because obviously you are mounting a race in, to me, maybe the hardest state for a Democrat to win. There was a time when Democrats could actually win in the state of Florida. Barack Obama did it twice. So it's not impossible, but it's gotten a lot more difficult as Democrats have become much more disengaged. But, you know, I saw this on the ground that Democrats typically, they don't go everywhere. There are a lot of people who don't ever get a visit. You know, Democrats are in Liberty City. They're not necessarily in Overtown. They're going where college educated existing voters are. So how do you change that dynamic? And have you started thinking through that in your race for governor?
Yeah, Joy, you're exactly right. I just want to say amen to everything Gary has said, because this is so important. Listen, I think I mentioned earlier, I've done 113 community events in the last 4 months. I have gone where no candidate has gone in the last 20 years. I was in a little town of Molino on the Alabama border as a Democratic candidate in a town of 600 people, 90% registered Republicans. And we turned out 50 people, a year out, and those 50 people are now talking about our message. But we have to go into Democratic communities that we have overlooked as well. People who are simply begging for leadership. And, Gary said something earlier in the show about people want to know that you've got a plan and you're willing to fight for them. And I want to point something out. In the 49 minutes we've been together, this is such a different cycle than, say, 2018, when we were having this circular firing squad over ideology. Are we left? Are we right? Are we center left, center right? Are we far left? Even in 2020, right? These conversations about where's the party on the left-right spectrum, that's not the conversation right now. It is the urgency of who's willing to fight for everybody. It's not whether we're going left or going right. It's whether we're lifting everybody up. And as Democrats, what I go into communities across Florida, speaking to Democrats, independents, or Republicans, I talk about the same three values that are rooted in Democratic traditions, but should be bigger than our party. The first value is the economy should work for everybody. Now, look, as Democrats, I don't think we should condemn success. We shouldn't. We should congratulate it. People worked harder. They got lucky, whatever it is. We don't need to condemn success, but we need to recognize the economy is not working for everybody. That, as I mentioned, 50% of our state doesn't have 2 weeks worth of savings. People can't afford their homes. They're having to leave their homes because of insurance or taxes. The economy should work for everybody is a value, not a policy. The second value is government has a responsibility in our lives, kind of Bill Clinton 92, right? To provide for access to affordable health care, excellence in public education, fighting crime, but not fighting communities like our Republican friends are doing, right? So the economy should work. The government has a responsibility. And the third value is we should be a place where everybody's empowered and lifted up, regardless of the color of your skin, where you were born, who you love, or who you worship. Those are democratic values, generational democratic values, but they're so much bigger than our party. So yes, as a Democratic gubernatorial candidate, I go into deep red communities and I say, these are the values that we're going to fight for. Republicans, tell me where I'm wrong, because I don't think you can. Independents who feel disaffected by major party dogma and the handcuffs you've been asked to put on if you join one of the parties, tell me where I'm wrong on the values. And for our Democrats who we have to excite and get out the vote and mobilize our base, these are our values. This is the Democratic Party. When we do that, we build an emerging political coalition that doesn't exist in the country right now, right? Florida's Democrats cannot win the Democratic governorship by ourselves. We have to build a coalition bigger than our party. And when we do that, we not only shock Florida, but we change national politics by leading a new political coalition founded on democratic values, but so much bigger than our party. That's why this race in Florida for governor is already in the margin of error. Joy, this race is even up in the state of Florida right now. That was my goal for next summer. That's where we're at 1 year out.
I have to go to Gary real quick because he is the expert on races in the deep South, and I know people don't like to put Florida in the South, but Florida is the South, y'all. They don't kick it out. But before I do that, let me just give you guys an update on the Jay Jones, Jason Miyares race. Jay Jones now distancing himself just a tiny bit. He's up 51% to 48.6%. There's a third person right in sort of line there that's got 0.4%. This is a very, very tight race. It is now considered too close to call, and it is not over yet, but we will see what happens there. Gary Johnson, there are places like Florida that, Florida's now finally been written off. It's considered a great place to raise money, but not a place to ever win as far as Democrats are concerned. What is your thinking about that? Because Florida is a difficult state to try to get people to turn out. The voter turnout is generally very, very, very low.
Gary Sr. lives in Duval County, and so does my sister. And I deeply understand that Jacksonville and Ocala and places like that are not considered in the Democratic messaging, but Jacksonville has a Democratic mayor. They flipped back and forth over the last 20 years between Democrat and Republican leadership. And if there was a serious investment within that community, you would see a higher yield to voter turnout. I think that the issue is the same in every Deep South pocket that has been unsuccessful, that there is an undervaluation of the Black voter in the Deep South, that their concerns are not heard and leveraged in a way that turns that vote out at a percentage that would give them the harvest that they're looking for. I think that we have walked away from identity politics when Trump does nothing but put us into little pockets of our identity, right? And the truth is, everybody's little rainbow of personality and identity makes up the quilt and the fabric of America. And we should want all of that in the gumbo. Because I'm from Louisiana, we throw a little bit of everything in and you get a good roux and you've got something that's worth eating. I think that's got to be the message of Democrats within the Deep South. I think that when you look at the only place in the Deep South that they have seen a harvest is where they have invested $100+ million in the candidates, where they have put the time in the grassroots infrastructure, and where they were unafraid to deal with working class issues and ensuring that working class voters understand that when we say working class, we're not talking about white union workers. We're talking about farmers that are Hispanic in communities. We're talking about Black laborers that are working as welders. We're talking about nurses and educators of every hue, shade, and background in this country. And when we talk that way, that is when we're going to get more people to say, I see myself in that message and show up for it. We're going to have things where we disagree on policy. Conservatives had an all-out war to get to where they are today.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump won that war. And now the party has moved in that direction. I think that we have shied away from some of the policy conflicts and some of the things that we have. That's a part of the sausage making. Now, should that play out as publicly as we do sometimes? Maybe not. But conservatives did it. And they came out with a victorious, no policy, but they did come out with a victorious slate of candidates, and they're able to move an agenda that moves our country backwards rather than forward. And so we've got to make a decision. If we want to see a map that gives us the math to 270, I think that math becomes easier when you play Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina, and Florida into those conversations. And the reason being, it's cheaper to turn a vote in every one of those states that I just mentioned than it is in California, than it is in New York City, than it is in Pennsylvania, than it is in Wisconsin. And so if it's cheaper to turn a vote in the South than it is to turn the vote there, we need to come be sensible, bring new strategies to the table, and go get in the communities and talk to these people, Joy.
Yeah, and by the way, in Florida, where you want to buy is Tampa. That's the secret. People think you just want to buy Miami, but you really buy Tampa. But you're absolutely right. And the South is actually a less expensive investment that would actually yield more results. But it's got to be a 50-state strategy, Mark. And for some reason, Republicans aren't thinking about it. They are very excited, though, about Virginia, because it's the upper South. And it is the sort of suburbs of DC, Mark. And so you do see a big fixation on that. Democrats are going to be taking a big victory lap about winning back this governor's race. I don't know how they're going to feel if they lose this AG race. Is there a message? If Abigail Spanberger and also Mamdani wins, they are on polar opposite sides. Well, maybe not polar opposite sides, but they're very different kinds of candidates. What's the message to Democrats, if there is a message?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I think the four of us on this, we need to marshal strategy. I think we need to have a weekly call, David, right, so we can make this happen, because I'm telling you, I did two national elections down there.
We can win this. We can win this. We can win this. I would not be in this race if I did not know we could win it.
And by the way, on the other side, it's probably going to be either Byron Donalds.
I had a great debate with him last year, Joy.
I remember it was epic, and it was very one-sided. Gary, it was a very one-sided victory for you. Or it could be the current First Lady of Florida. Those are the two. So anyway, I'm gonna let you finish your thought, Mark, and then I want to ask David if he has a preference for an opponent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Last word to you, David, and feel free to also give your website, let people know how they can support you in your journey
Yeah.
to try to become the governor of Florida.
Yeah, thank you. DavidJolly.com. Very simple. My name. Listen, I want to talk about this big tent a little bit because I didn't see room for myself 8 years ago in the Democratic Party. I didn't, but I have in the last few years. And yeah, I think Joe Biden helped with that. But you know who unlocked it was Vice President Harris. Vice President Harris at the convention last year was the president who the presidential candidate who brought in former Republicans, who brought back the flag and strong national defense and the veterans community, whatever it was, right? It wasn't a pivot from where the party was. It was allowing more people to see themselves in the party. And so the reason I talk about those three values, the economy should work for everybody. The government has a role in our lives for education, healthcare, safe communities. And we should be a place where we stay out of your bedroom and your doctor's office, and everybody should be welcomed regardless of the color of your skin and where you were born, because those values are strong enough to tether together the Democratic Party, right? The emerging young progressive with the last blue dog standing. Those are our values, but they're so much bigger than our party. They allow us to bring in independents and Republicans. And so, yes, we get a Spanberger, we get a Cheryl, and we get a Mandami on exactly the same night. And that's great. Look, Mandami's answers in the city are not the right answers in Florida. They're not. Spanberger's answers in Virginia probably aren't the right answers in the city. That's fine. But the values of watching Democratic candidates tonight say, I don't want the economy to leave anybody behind. I want to make sure government is there to provide for food security and healthcare and education. And yet, regardless of what you look like, who you love, or who you worship, you deserve to have your rights protected and your dignity restored. Those values are universal across Democratic candidates. It's what I'm fighting for in Florida and why I know we can win.
David Jolly, best of luck to you, my friend. I think we're going to have to convene another meeting of this group so that we can figure out how to get you over the side. Because the other thing is, you know, Florida's a nice state. It shouldn't have an asshole as a governor. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. That guy is terrible. He just makes you not want to go to Florida other than to visit Gary Chambers Sr. and the cousins. I'll go specifically to see them. But other than that, not with that guy there. He makes you not want to go to Disney World. That's how much of an asshole he is. So we want to see a nice governor that we actually encourages us to want to go. Listen, if you take out some white tall boots, David,
Joy, real quickly, listen, I'm not wired to think about when we win. I really don't. This is about fighting every day to win. But I have thought on some late night drives back home to my kids, I've thought, I want to be the governor that on election night stands in front of the world and says, after 8 years of culture wars, we apologize. We apologize to the world, and everyone is welcome back. That's the governor I want to be of the state of Florida.
When you do that, I will make a specific trip to Disney World to visit the once again welcoming and nice and kind state of Florida. David Jolly, I appreciate you. Gary Chambers Jr., appreciate you. I'm gonna hostage situation Mark Thompson for just a few more minutes. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. But I want to go through just a bit more, Mark. I'm having you ride with me just as a co-host just for a little bit longer. New Jersey governor's race is at 57-6, 41-9. That is the race that seemed like it was going to be a little closer. It's a little bit wider than I think what I at least expected. It's a little bit better. I think Mikey Sherrill is doing a little bit better than I at least expected her to. Jay Jones, on the other hand, let me just refresh. He's still hanging on to a very slight lead, 51 to 48.6. What do you think the consequences are if he does not win? Because it's kind of hard to imagine a Democratic administration in New Jersey, but a Republican attorney general. But it's happened before. I mean, it is, and also not just in that state. I mean, we did see, we've seen before where the one sort of Black candidate on a statewide ticket doesn't win when everyone else is able to win. So, and he had an issue with these text messages where it felt like the party was somewhat throwing him under the bus. And I think losing sight of the bottom line, which is, you know, you don't need a perfect candidate, you don't need a saint, you just need a Democrat in this point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's looking, I'm going now to just refresh on the New York Times page. Apologies, I don't have this live on the screen. I'm going to turn it around just so you guys can sort of see it. I don't know if you guys can see that if I just hold it up there. What it basically shows is the white is what has not come in at all. And the blue are the sort of bluer areas. Obviously, the red are the redder areas in New Jersey. So all I'm doing is I am just clicking on each of these areas. Newark is this deep, deep blue area. Essex County is very, very blue. 61% of that vote is in. Mikey Sherrill getting 75% of that vote. That is her stronghold. That is Ross Baraka's Newark, New Jersey, where you've seen a lot of these ICE stops, where you've seen a lot of that controversy. You've got Union County, which is just below the Newark area. Only 20% of that vote is in, but Mikey Sherrill winning an overwhelming 66% of that vote. Let me go to a redder county. Jack Ciattarelli winning in Morris County, which is sort of northwest of Newark. Jack Ciattarelli getting 51 to 48. So it's actually pretty close, only 22% of that vote in. But what I'm basically saying to you is that Mikey Sherrill is performing more strongly in the places where she has a base than Ciattarelli, who is performing more evenly with Mikey Sherrill, even in places that are red-leaning counties. I'll give you one more example. Well, he's doing better here. 78% of the vote in Ocean County, which is a very conservative part of the state. Ciattarelli is winning that 65% to 34%. But the bad news for him is that 78% of that vote is in. So he's not going to yield a lot more vote out of that county. Monmouth County, which is another county that's very, very much a Jack Ciattarelli county, he's winning that 54% to 45%. But unfortunately for him, 87% of that vote is already in, meaning he's not going to yield a whole lot more. Whereas in Essex County, where Mikey Sherrill is getting 75% of the vote to 25% of the vote, only 61% of that vote is in. So there's still a lot more vote, as they used to say on Ms. Now on the former MSNBC. There's still a lot of vote that's left out in Essex County, and if she can close really strongly in Essex County, that is really the heart of blue New Jersey. I'm going to go down to Cumberland County, which is another place where Mikey Sherrill is doing very well. She's getting 60% of the vote to 39% of the vote. Only 31% of that vote is in. So you see, so this is the way the math basically works, is that you want to be doing better in the places that are your strongholds and have a lot more vote left so that you can presume that that remaining vote will go your way. So
Maurice is backstage.
Okay, let's actually go ahead and bring in Maurice Mitchell. Maurice Mitchell, the math is mathing in Mikey Sherrill's direction. Maurice Mitchell of the probably my new party very soon, the Working Families Party, because I'm telling you, these Democrats be trying me. I think I got to go with Maurice's party. But what do you make of what you're seeing so far tonight? Because it does feel like whether they are a more moderate sort of doctrinaire Democrat like Abigail Spanberger, or what we anticipate, we don't know yet. Polls have closed in New York. We don't know how that's ultimately going to go. What we think is going to happen with Mamdani. What do you make of what you're seeing on tonight?
Well, Joy, and hello, Brother Mark. I see two things, and of course, you know, we still need to count ballots in New York as polls have closed. but I think this is, to me, a clear repudiation of Trump and MAGA and their politics, as well as a confirmation of what we saw in June's primary, when Zohran Mamdani's defeat of disgraced former governor Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic primary, like, had political consultants ripping up their playbooks and understanding that if you wanted to win in 2025, you had to focus on affordability. And even those more traditional Democrats, one of the things that they did was focus on affordability. And I think there's just a real affordability crisis that's taking place in this country. Even in Georgia, the Public Service Commission races, and one of our endorsed candidates is a Black woman that won a statewide race in Georgia, right? To me, the Public Service Commission race, it's one of the reasons why so many people swung in that direction were the outrageous utility prices that so many Georgians are facing. And so I think the combined reality of an affordability crisis that's facing Americans everywhere, and just the horrific toll that almost a year of Trump and MAGA rule.
Oh, I think we just had a freeze happen. We're gonna try to get Maurice back. But let me just while we're trying to unfreeze. Well, he's unfreeze.
Wait, I'm unfrozen.
Oh, there you go. Your internet. Oh, there you go. You're unfrozen. You're unfrozen. Go ahead. Finish your sentence.
Yeah, so I don't know where last I left, but I do think it's the combination of those two factors, right? It's the unmistakable affordability crisis that working class Americans are facing across race and in every region of the country. And what I think what Americans have now experienced, we're in the ninth month, almost a year, of rule by and for one man, the authoritarian rule of Trump and MAGA. And I think this is a repudiation of Trumpist politics, and a continued reminder that everyday working people are feeling the weight of this affordability crisis. And it's clear that the way that Americans are attempting to show their frustration with affordability is by punishing Republicans.
Let's give you an update here. Of course, we've mentioned that Ghazala Hashmi has become the first Muslim woman elected to be lieutenant governor. She's going to be lieutenant governor of the state of Virginia. So she's the first Muslim woman to ever be elected statewide in the United States, which is crazy. It's 2025. The New York City Board of Elections says 2 million people have cast ballots in New York City for the first time since 1969. Let's go to the great state of Texas. Texas voters have approved a parental rights amendment to the state constitution, so a conservative victory in Texas. And so we're still waiting, obviously, to see what happens in New York City. California redistricting, we're not probably going to know that until very, very late tonight. That is Prop 50. So we're waiting to see how that goes. We're obviously still waiting to see if the New Jersey governor's race is going to go in the direction of the Democrats, which is Mikey Sherrill, or in the direction of Republicans, which is Jack Ciattarelli. I'm going to refresh one more time. I enjoy doing this. I'm going to refresh it one more time. I don't have a big board, but I'm still going to play around with this map. Essex County, which I told you all about, which is Mikey Sherrill's stronghold. She's winning 75% to 24%. 74% of that vote is now in. Union County, where Mikey Sherrill is winning 66% to 34%. Only 20% of that is in. So there's still a lot of vote that she can still get out of there. Middlesex County, which is also a Mikey Sherrill stronghold, 64-35. Only 67% of that is in. Going, though, to a red county, Morris County, which is a Jack Ciattarelli county. He's only winning that 50% to 49.4. So he's basically tied there, and only 24% of that is in. If it keeps going like that, Jack Ciattarelli's not going to get a lot out of that. 51-48, he's winning in Warren County. That's a little too tight. Only 30% of that vote is in, but it's not good news if he's basically splitting that county with her. So it's starting to look a little bit more comfortable, Mark, for Mikey Sherrill. And it's going to be an earthquake, Maurice, not just for Republicans, but also for Democrats who were very reluctant to support Mamdani, very hesitating in terms of endorsing him, even though he's the Democratic nominee. And also for billionaires. The billionaires, they came to the table in the end. This super PAC that lined up for Cuomo at the end, you name it, Michael Bloomberg, every anti-DEI billionaire got behind him, and even some Trump cabinet folks, Stephen Miller, Nosferatu, came out and threw his weight behind Cuomo. It seems that maybe that hurt them rather than help them.
I mean, we had Stephen Miller, President Trump, Elon Musk in the final hours get into this, and also Elon Musk is slowly recognizing that New York has a fusion voting system, and was confused by the fact that Zohran Mamdani appeared on the Democratic Party line and the Working Families Party line.
Right.
So, and this is, I have to say, this is a really like a groundbreaking hurricane inside of the Democratic Party, and there's going to be a lot of inside of different Democratic Party circles. There's going to be a lot of spinning. There's no spinning inside of the WFP. This is a undeniable victory for the Working Families Party. Today, Zohran Mamdani, who's likely to be the incoming mayor, Jumaane Williams, who is the public advocate, and the outgoing controller of New York, the three citywide seats in New York, they all voted on the Working Families Party line, and they're all proud members of the Working Families Party. So this, to me, is a watershed moment in our politics, and it suggests that there are a set of new politics that people can either embrace or get left behind.
Can you just explain a little bit more the fusion politics, the way it works? Because I think people don't understand that a lot of Democrats in New York are both in the Democratic Party and Working Families. How does that work?
Well, yeah, in New York and Connecticut, there's something called fusion voting, and it allows for a party to endorse the candidate of another party. So at the Working Families Party, it allows us to recruit people like Attorney General Tish James to run on the Working Families Party line. And when she wins, it allows for the Democrats to then in turn cross-endorse her. That's how she actually got into politics. On the other hand, it allows us to endorse Democrats like Vice President Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, even though we hold a different set of politics and values, because we recognize that at the end of the day, we are attempting to join forces with the Democrats to defeat MAGA, and at the same time challenge the Democrats from the standpoint of the issues of working people. It actually provides a real space for independent politics in a way that doesn't get caught up in the spoiler effect that has, made it really hard for a lot of third parties to show up and have real power and be able to govern. In New York and Connecticut, we have the ballot line, and we've been able to use it. And that's part of the story of New York today, and why we're able to have so many progressives run and win at the highest levels.
We need to get that in more states. Work on that for us, please, because we need that in every state in the union. Mark Thompson, before I let you go, I want to try to get one more update out of you. What are you hearing inside of Virginia? I'm looking now at the map that's on, I'm looking on both NBC News site. I'm going back and forth between there and the New York Times site. And it's still looking like Jay Jones is hanging on to a small lead. Still too close to call, 51.6% to 47.9%. But it looks like every single count, sort of precinct is accounted for. It's just not all counted. So it's still a squeaker. He's up for now. I want to also give you all some breaking news. 3 polling sites in New Jersey stayed open an extra hour due to, as I reported earlier, the bomb threats across New Jersey. It's some school locations that received these, what they said were fake bomb threats, actually had to close temporarily. So they weren't able to be open for the entire time that people had the opportunity to vote. And so because of that, 3 polling sites in New Jersey they stayed open an extra hour. So we're probably that's gonna delay getting the results there unless it's a very clear victory for one side or the other. And so go ahead. Mhm. It- Yep. And I'll give you an example of what they're talking about. I'm going to Blue Albemarle County. I'm going to turn this around just so that you guys can see it. I apologize that we don't have it live for the full screen. I don't know if that's going to be clear enough for you guys to be able to see it, but this is what I'm just so that you guys can see what I'm working from. I'm just going on this map. If you go to Albemarle County, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Albemarle County, this is a Jay Jones majority county, 57.2% for him, 42.2% for Miyares, but only 37.8% of that vote is in, which means there's a lot more to come in a county that he's clearly winning. I'll go to the neighboring county, which is Nelson County. That is a majority Miyares county, but he's only winning that 53.1% to 46.6, and 97.4% of that is in. So when I'm just sort of cruising around on this map, what I'm seeing is that the Miyares counties seem to have more of their vote in. There's one county here where he's doing really well, where it's a little less. Rappahannock County, it is a tiny, tiny, tiny county. He's up 69 to 30.2%, but only 59.5% is in. But it's such a tiny county that he's not going to get a lot of vote out of there. Where you want to look is the place where there are big cities, where you've got like 100,000 voters for one person or another. That's places like Loudoun County or Loudoun County. That's 59.1% for Jones. Loudoun County to 40.4% Loudoun County. Jones is winning that outright, and a lot of that is in 96.7%. So that's really that's what all of these guys are doing. They're going through and they're looking at how much vote is left and how tiny or how large the county is. That is how they're projecting who's going to win. And if you just do it that way, it does seem, just my cruising over it, that in the counties with the big numbers of people, Jay Jones is winning with a clearer margin of victory, a wider margin of victory than the places where Miyares is winning. And Miyares is winning in a lot of the smaller counties with fewer population, right? So, I mean, that's a weird way to look at it, but that's how I'm looking at it. On New York Times. Oh, okay. That, very interesting. Yep. And if you go through, even on the New York Times website, it's saying that 80% of votes are in at this point for governor, 80% of votes are in for attorney general, 59% of votes are in for New Jersey governor. Mikey Sherrill kind of walking away with it a little bit in New Jersey, but it's looking better and better for Jay Jones. He's up now 50.1, 50.16%, 51.6%, sorry, to 48%. And so it's getting better and better for Jay Jones. Mark Thompson, what will it mean that Democrats did not fully embrace Jay Jones after his? I mean, Donald Trump is literally a felon, and the Republicans had no problems wrapping their arms around him. He's an adjudicated sexual abuser, not a problem for Republicans. But Jay Jones sent some stupid text messages, and Democrats went into a catatonic state. Yeah, no. Nobody cares. They want him to make their rent cheaper. They really don't care. Even the stuff where they were demanding that he announce that he was going to go to Israel, and he's like, "I'm going to go to the Bronx. Can I go to the Bronx first? Can I go to Brooklyn first? You're hounding me that I'm gonna. When am I going to go to Israel? I'm the mayor. I want to be the mayor of New York. I want to.
Yeah.
I want to go to Staten Island first. Can I do that? Can I go to Queens?
The chat is saying that Cheryl won Jersey.
Mikey Cheryl looking good. Let me give you guys a couple updates. This is the New York Times numbers. 52% of the votes now in New York City, Maurice, and so far a healthy 49.6% to 41.5% lead for Mamdani. Curtis Sliwa, the guardian angel guy with the red hat, he's got 8.1% so far. So it's 49.6 to 41.5. It does seem that let's see if Mikey Cheryl, if they're going to call for Mikey Cheryl. Let me go back and see if we can get that call.
They called it for her. She won.
Yep, it looks like Mikey Cheryl. Mikey
Yep,
Cheryl.
they called it.
Mikey Cheryl has now won. She is officially going to be the governor of New Jersey, and it turned out it wasn't as tight as maybe some of us thought it was going to be. 56.9% for Mikey Cheryl, 42.6% for Chattarelli, who was vowing to turn New Jersey into a MAGA stronghold for ICE. That will not happen. New Jersey will remain a sanctuary state. Good news if you are brown in New Jersey, tell the Lord thank you. Mikey Cheryl will be your governor. And really kind of all we're waiting for really is now New York mayor, the New York mayor's race. We still need that. And that is also Mamdani's in the lead. Your thoughts on all of this so far, Maurice?
Well, that lead, that commanding lead, is good news for us at the Working Families Party, and there's still votes to count in New York. I think just zooming out, I do think there's a story to tell about what all of these results mean in aggregate, and there's local races that most people aren't talking about that I'm focusing on, right? Like, again, the Georgia Public Service Commission. Right?
Yep.
Dr. Alicia Johnson, right? A Black woman has won statewide in Georgia, right? That's, to me, a critical proof point in the fact that, number one, Black people and Black women can run statewide in the South and win. And the fact that the politics of this moment suggests that our people running on our issues and focusing on affordability can align a number of people, including people who didn't vote for Democrats just in last November. I'm also looking at like two Black women who are WFP aligned and endorsed Black women who will be making history. So there's Sharon Owens and Dorcia Pliers. Now, these will likely be the first Black mayors in Syracuse and Albany history in New York State. And there is an opportunity that when all the dust is settled, all the votes are counted, we will have a new mayor in New York City that is aligned with these grassroots politics, but also mayors in Albany, in Syracuse, and in Buffalo, and two of them being the first Black women to ever hold those seats. So we're making a lot of history today, and we're making a lot of history on our terms with outsiders who were challenged by a lot of corporate money, who were not the people that folks thought should be the Democratic sort of soft, the safe Democratic person.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who actually built a labor and community coalition and are poised to be executives in all these cities. So there's a story to be told about a different type of politics, as well as a story that I think is about the American people and the fact that they are fed up with Trump, and they are and the rents are too damn high, and people are tired of a lack of affordability, and they're using the ballot to both challenge Trump and Trumpism and challenge the economy, which under Trump has only gotten worse for everyday people. Correct. Sure. Well, the thing that does connect just about anybody that wasn't a Republican that was running tonight is the fact that, and I do think that this is also a story about Zoran and how he's transformed the politics of the Democratic Party, including the Democrats that want nothing to do with him. Because everybody, after that election, all they could talk about is affordability. All they could talk about is running on affordability. Some of them,
I would say,
like Zoran, ran on affordability in a way that has created a movement politics. But even Mikey Sherrill and all the others are running basically on affordability. And that was something we were arguing in 2024, that, the number 1, 2, and 3 things that Americans across race are talking about was the economy, right? And I think Democrats have gotten the memo there. And what I will say is another thing that's clear, another thing in polling, as well as what I'm seeing in every neighborhood that I'm in, and I'm not just in New York, I'm crisscrossing the country, is that people are tired of status quo politics. People are fed up. Everyday people are fed up with the status quo, and they want to believe that there are a group of leaders that are willing to fight for them and are willing to take the fight to the corporations, to MAGA, to Trump, you name it. And all of those folks that have proven in this moment to be willing to take that fight on have been rewarded by the American people. And I think we're seeing that with the outcomes with many of the Working Families Party elected officials that have gotten buoyed into these positions in this particular political moment. And we've been, we're kind of like a broken record in some ways. We've been arguing these politics for more than 20 years. And it just turns out that the moment has finally, I think, validated the argument that we were making back in 1998 when the Democrats were aligning with NAFTA and the 94 crime bill and all these things and, lurching towards Wall Street. And we said then, that this was going to cost us working people. And here we are in 2025, having those chickens come home to roost, but then also having this new crop of young and exciting folks who are willing to run on those like basic values of working people, and they are being rewarded for it.
Dean,
Indeed.
Ms. Beck-
Mamdani is projected the winner. Mamdani has been.
Mamdani has already been projected the winner. Let's bring in Dean Obeidallah. Dean Obeidallah, host of the eponymous Dean Obeidallah Show, is here right on time, Dean, as we are seeing projections that Mamdani will indeed become the first Muslim mayor of the city of New York, the great city of New York. I'm looking at the same things on the screens right now. It appears that it is a fait accompli. Dean, your thoughts on that, and also the history that Ms. Hashmi made in New Jersey, in Virginia.
Good to see you. Good to see Mark. Good to see Maurice. Nice to see all of you. And now, Joy, my name is now I'm using my formal name. It's Dean Allah Akbar Obeidallah. From now on. That's right, baby. That's it. It's on. That's
Sharia law for everyone.
I'm not saying, look, folks, BLTs are banned, just LTs.
Listen,
that's it. It's better for you. 4 spouses forever, not 4 wives, 4 spouses. Mix and match, whatever you want. Because Zoran is progressive. This is going to be fun. This is every nightmare of the right has just come to fruition. I can't be happier that they are triggered. And Ghazala Hashmi won Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. Yes. I know Ghazala, she's been on my show countless times. The first Muslim American and first Asian American to win statewide in Virginia. Look, America evolves, right? We have 4 Muslims in Congress now. Latifah Simons, my buddy, comes on my show all the time. She's the 4th Muslim. America keeps moving forward. And some on the right and even the center don't want that. Now, New York is a little unique in that we had Democrats spewing anti-Muslim bigotry openly. Andrew Cuomo trafficking in it, having fun with Sid Rosenberg on WABC, not having any problem with Eric Adams' hateful stuff. We talked about it, Joy, in my show today you were on. Michael Bloomberg, Bill Ackman, someone spending money on the super PACs to spew vile stuff that I can't believe in 2025 they thought it could still work. So this election is so important that in New York, the most vibrant, diverse city in the nation, that anti-Muslim bigotry is not going to win the day. I'm really hoping the gap gets bigger, but as of now, with about 70% of the vote in, Zoran's at 50% to about 40% for Cuomo. The turnout, by the way, you probably saw 2 million people, the biggest since 1969. Younger people, this is the most remarkable thing for Democrats if they want to learn anything. exit poll of 18 to 29-year-olds, 75% voted for Zoran. Yes, 75%. If that is accurate,
Yeah.
75%. So
Yeah.
it's huge.
I will know the New York Times reporting that even on election day, Chuck Schumer is mum on Mamdani. The top Senate Democrat never endorsed Zoran Mamdani, his party's young left-wing nominee for mayor, and declined to even say who he had voted for. Mark Thompson, I'm not sure what sense it makes to have the mayor of New York owe you nothing, have no need to have allegiance to you as a leader as a United States Senate leader. He didn't help. He didn't endorse. He didn't even say whether he voted for him. Your thoughts? Yeah.
I'm still discerning 100% what happened there, but I mean, again, I think, you know, over the next 48 hours, we're going to see a lot of folks inside of the Democratic Party try to make meaning of this. Some of them are having a harder night than others. Again, like I said before, this is a great night for us, and I think a great night for democracy and a great night for this new politics. And the thing that's interesting about Barack Obama, the thing that's interesting about even, you know, somebody like Hakeem Jeffries, many of these people, they actually started off as outsiders. They started off as disruptors inside of their party. People start off as disruptors, and then they become some of the forces that are most troubled by the necessary change and churn that have to happen inside of their party. But I think if again, I am representing the Working Families Party, but if I was representing the Democratic Party, I would want an environment that allowed some of the best and brightest talent to emerge. And look, like when your team is winning and you have a young upstart and they're on fire, you give them the rock. You just give them the rock, right?
Yeah.
And some folks in the Democratic Party still might be confused by that, but we certainly aren't. Like, folks aren't asking for permission anymore to lead, and we think that's
Dean Obeidallah. Not only is Zoran Mamdani the first Muslim mayor, he was born in Africa, and his middle name is Kwame. There is nothing about him that is not fully triggering to right-wing people. He has been openly embracing the fact that he is a democratic socialist. He doesn't run from the socialist term, as almost all Democrats. They're so terrified they can barely defend Social Security because it's got the word social in it. They're terrified to talk about the poor. They only talk about the middle class. They won't speak about the poor. Zoran Mamdani talked about broke folks, people who can't afford their rent, and he took on every single billionaire that was at the Mar-a-Lago Great Gatsby party and beyond. All the billionaires. To me, it's humiliating. All these billionaires, Michael Bloomberg, etc., Bill Ackman, the whole anti-DEI. This dude is African. Bill Ackman, somebody need to do a wellness check on him because he's the guy, Black, Muslim, and also African. I don't know if he's gonna make it through the night.
And look at, I mean, Trump was a big part of all the election wins tonight because the Democrats ran against him in New Jersey, in Virginia, in Zoran here. And I think Maurice was mentioning before I came on, the exit polling in New Jersey showed affordability was a top issue.
Yes.
Why Zoran led the path on that. Look, Zoran a year ago announced that he was going to run. I knew him, you know, we're not buddies, but I know him. I remember he texted me. I'm like, I'm not going to have you on my show. You're at like no percent. Like, I mean, I didn't say that, but I'm like, come on. And so a year ago, and I had him on the primary early on, and he's a really good guy. Then it became impossible to get him back on.
Same.
He captured something. You know, young people and middle-aged people are tired of the system being rigged. And what he did was not just offer that kind of terminology that gives you traction. He gave specific things that he was going to do, and he wasn't going to back down. And at his rallies, people would I never saw at a rally where people like filling in the blanks on policy prescriptions, like free what, free the rent, free buses, childcare free, like the kind of things where you're like, you leave and know that he's serious about what he's doing. And I'd see Democrats, corporate Democrats who are in Congress in New York who won't endorse him, or they endorse Cuomo. I hope people wake up. Corporate Democrats are about status quo. That's why the big money people give them money. They want maybe incremental change to make you feel a teeny bit better. They don't want transformative change because the billionaires made their money in our system. They don't want to change the system that's worked for them. So that's where you got corporate Democrats. Look, Zoran, Democrats should look at this as a big victory on affordability, but different candidates can run a different campaign. I mean, Zoran running in Virginia maybe wins, maybe not. I'm not sure. In Jersey, perhaps. And Mikey Sherrill running here, or Spanberger running her campaign in New York City probably doesn't win. But they're about affordability and being authentic and taking the fight to people in power. There's a lot there for Democrats.
There is a lot there. I'm going to also report to you all that it's 860,000 votes and counting for Zoran Mamdani, who has now officially been declared the winner, 50.4% to 41.3, 7.5% for the guy with the hat, Sliwa. But the thing that is exciting about this, and there goes the ticker. Okay, because what I was going to say is Zoran Mamdani is on track to be the first New York mayor to win with more than 1 million votes. Hard to believe that this is since John Lindsay, no New York mayor. And this is the city of New York. You would think everyone wins with, no. Most of these guys get in with under 1 million votes. He now has 913. It literally, the ticker just ticked up just as we were speaking. 913, 885 votes when all is said and done. That's with 80% of the votes in. Zoran Mamdani will get more than 1 million votes, meaning he will be the most popularly elected mayor of New York in any of our lifetimes, Dean. This is a huge repudiation of the people who did an ad at the end, putting him in front of the World Trade Center, 9/11, tried to tie him to terrorism, tried to claim he was in fact a terrorist related. Every Islamophobic attack was thrown at this guy. He's going to be the most popularly elected New York mayor in our lifetimes.
But Chuck Schumer won't return his calls.
No.
I mean, that's the thing. Look, the personal part for me as a Muslim American is I was really worried about younger Muslims seeing this anti-Muslim hate and not wanting to run for office or going into the shadows. Instead, the skin of Muslim Americans, like I'm older, I've been through a lot, right? I'm also half Sicilian, so I'm half Palestinian, half Sicilian. I've been through a lot. The younger Muslims, you should see them on TikTok, Instagram. They are more defiant than ever. They are not going to be quiet. Most of them are born here or raised most of their lives. They are American, and they're not going to let bigotry go unanswered. So the bigots out there in your organizations, I think you're coming for us. You've lost here. You're going to lose everywhere. There's going to be more Muslims. And at some point, some other group will replace us as the boogeyman. We all know that. But what I saw now, 25 years after 9/11, this garbage, and Congressman Ogle's a Republican. But I mean, Eric Adams saying, wake up, this isn't Europe. Look what they're doing. For a man like that, who knows Muslims, who I performed at events for Muslims in Brooklyn when he was Brooklyn Borough president, where the Muslims loved this guy at one point. To do that to me was just despicable. And I don't know why Adams did it. He did it while endorsing Cuomo last week. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah. And by the way, millionaires, complete rebuke, Maurice, to the billionaire, not the millionaires, the billionaires, just a thorough rebuke of the oligarchs.
Yes. And look, I think it's going to hopefully be a wake-up call, because if the Democratic Party really wants to leap into this moment where affordability is an issue and a candidate like Zoran has built this movement around them, one of the realities is that the Republican Party is funded by a group of elites, right? And oligarchs and corporations. And it is a fascist party for sure. But the Democratic Party is a status quo party that has its own set of elites, corporations, and oligarchs. And there's a new wave of folks who are elected officials who are resisting and who are saying, we're not going to be funded by corporate PACs. We're not going to be funded by APAC or AI or crypto or farmer or the real estate lobby or the Fraternal Order of Police. We're going to be funded by our constituents. We're going to be funded by everyday people. And we're going to use the dynamism of people power in order to build a movement that could take on corporate power. And that contrast is something that I think is on full display in New York. And, you know, there's a lot of performative fighting taking place inside of the Democratic Party. But, you know, when it comes to actually challenging AIPAC, for example, people are quiet. Or the crypto lobby, or the burgeoning AI lobby, you know, folks are quiet because, you know, a lot of those folks in the Democratic Party are trying to figure out how they might be able to win back over big tech, right?
Yeah.
When they should be focusing on winning back the trust of working people. And I think that's also on the display with the pretty impressive victory that Zoran is about to sail to. And that's going to create a governing mandate for the freelancers, for childcare, for all the things that Zoran ran on. He will have a mandate, which is why it was so important that so many people came out. So nobody could argue that this was a fluke or anything like that. This is a powerful mandate for a new type of politics.
I can't wait to see what the backlash is going to look like. Frank Luntz throwing in the towel, conservative pollster Frank Luntz reporting that every single county in the great state of Virginia shifted blueward tonight. Loudoun County went 12 points to the blue side. Prince William County, 16 points in that direction. Portsmouth County, 8.1. Even conservative Washington County shifted blue by 4.5 points. Louisa County shifted by 6.5 points. Orange County, which Winsome Earl Sears won by 15 points, it still went 9.3 points in the other direction. Powhatan County, Earl Sears won by 40 points, but it shifted 4.4 points, Mark Thompson, to the left. So what you're seeing is the way that Donald Trump seemed to create this effect, including in Virginia, where everything went red, where people decided they didn't want just Trump, but they wanted Trump and all Republicans. This feels like a complete rejection of him, and a message to him that his policies are hurting people and are pissing people off. Right. Yep.
That's right.
Wow. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's two. No, not at all. And there's some other seats further west that I'm going to be looking at. And these are municipal seats that may not be on everybody's radar. Denzel McCampbell, a brother in the Detroit City Council. So he's a young progressive upstart that's running with that same type of independent politics, and he has a great shot to be a new representative in Detroit. Dionne Foster, who's a sister in Seattle City Council. She's somebody who I'm going to be looking at. So all of these are indications as we look at these races that, even without knowing what happens in those races, the story is that this is a wave election without a doubt.
What a difference from a year ago. Remember a year ago where we were? Where Donald Trump won and the pain we were going through and the soul searching. Now the world's going to see this. And I hope the world says, look, they're course correcting a little bit. There's some hope there. You know, maybe they're not going to go down the fascist path that Donald Trump wants. But Joey, we talk about on the show, does this make Trump expedite him to becoming a lame duck or make him more dangerous and desperate to hold on to power between now and the next midterm where he does things that we can't even think about. No one thought of a January 6th terrorist attack.
That's
What
right.
will he do to stay in power and keep Republicans in power between now and November? So we have to be on higher double secret alert,
That's
because
right.
he's going to try to steal the midterm elections, because he knows that we're coming for him. We get the House, it's impeachment, whatever we can do. We're going to make him, lock him in his
I
bathroom.
don't even need impeachment. You don't have 67 votes to convict, and so impeachment is impractical. What I want is the House to cut off his allowance. I want them to say the allowance. It's like when your kid misbehaved, cut the money off, and the House has the power to do it. No more money for ICE. ICE's budget just went to zero, my friend. None. You get nothing. Your budget, your coin purse for remodeling the White House, leave the East Wing in rubble. I hope rats and bugs come in through the hole, because we're not going to rebuild it. You're not getting a permit, no permits, nothing's happening. You're not going to get any more money. We're going to cut your travel budget down. You want to go play golf? Get in that thing that Qatar gave you. Let Qatar fly you to go play golf. Literally, I think that what the House should do is to start cutting the money off.
That'd be great.
And you don't give them more money, because that's what they have the power to do. They have the power to start restricting. And I really would love the Senate do not cave without getting something on the books, a law that he has no choice but to sign or make become law without his signature. That if you do not spend the money as the House and Senate designated it to be spent, money is cut off. There have to be punishments and penalties for him to be disobedient. Donald Trump is a bad toddler, and he is disobedient to the Constitution. And we need the House and Senate to man up and woman up and start to force him to comply. Let me give some data that Mark brought up. The Texas 18. This is the soon to be completely gutted 18th historic district in Texas, which is going to be basically merged with District 9, Al Green's district. Christian Menifee has 12,599 votes, or 32% of the vote. Amanda Edwards has 25.2% of the vote. And our friend Jolanda Jones, who's been on this show a lot, she's the one who brought us those maps to show what was going to happen to these districts. She is running third with 18.9% of the vote, as no one has gotten to the 50% threshold. I do believe that you are saying, Maurice, that means it's going to be a runoff.
Yep.
So that will be a runoff. So we're going to keep watching that. If anybody has eyes on the Atlanta council race, we had Rohit for Atlanta on last night. I'm very curious to see what happens there. So if one of the producers, if Nitha could maybe do a quick search to see what we've got on that. But this has been a really historic day, Dean. It's historic for Muslims in 2 different states and counting, but historic for America and for New York City.
Well, look, you have Nitha Khan working for you, who's Muslim, so you're going to be fine. We're all, we're making a list right now. We're feeling pretty good. We've Maurice to be on it. Mark Thompson,
in the
you'll
house.
be fine. We're going to whoever's been nice to us will be fine. But others, I got my eye on a few people, and
I actually saw something, one of the fear mongering takes was about like mandating halal. I'm like, actually, I like halal food. That's not a bad mandate.
I'm like, that's like when they said taco trucks on every corner. Yes, please. Taco trucks on every corner and mandated halal. Halal is delicious.
Turkey bacon is better
immediately.
For you. Eat turkey bacon. You'll live longer. It's not even about religious. It's health reasons. Believe me, pork is going to kill you. It's a dirty animal. Let's not even get to it. But turkey is going to keep you living longer. I just want to say.
I mean, I don't know if you all have been tracking this. This is something that I got a lot of text messages this weekend from Black New Yorkers who got these messages, this mail. There's been radio ads by this sort of Black organization that was basically an AIPAC front group, spewing all of these really, problematic messages about Zoran. Okay, I mean, they didn't hide it too well. Basically, it took like 3 clicks and a Google search. You go to their website, you look at the 2 individuals, they're both Black men who claim to be the people behind this, and then, a cursory look at their backgrounds, and it turns out most of their political career has been spent in AIPAC, and this thing is funded by AIPAC donors and AIPAC. And it just shows the desperation at the last minute. And all the, AIPAC is basically a corporate billionaire lobby. So all the billionaire money went to all of these really like problematic attacks. And it's, silly season is something that always happens, at the final buzzer, you're going to see all types of weird things. But I think this has been, in some ways, some of the darkest and most racist and Islamophobic messages, and sometimes coming from Democrats.
Yeah.
I think I've seen in recent memory. And the good news is none of them worked. The millions and millions and millions of dollars in race baiting, Islamophobia, in xenophobic attacks, they all backfired. People were more inspired to turn out. People were disgusted. And those politics of the past, I think, have been discredited. And I think those billionaires might think twice before they decide to spend like $20-something million on attacks in this fashion. The other thing I think is going to be really interesting to look at is, given the fact that Trump's approval is under 40%, you have this clear rebuke. How is it going to impact the politics of the shutdown? Because there will be sitting Republicans in the House of Representatives,
yes,
and even sitting senators that are going to be thinking about their own politics more than Donald Trump's because of the outcomes of today's election. And it's going to be interesting to see how they spin this, but also privately what they're going to be talking about and whether or not the negotiations might change based on where the politics are going.
Yeah, and the two members of Congress who are talking about attempting to deport Zoran Mamdani, good luck. He's going to be the mayor of the great city of New York. He's going to be the New York mayor. You're not going to deport him. I'm sorry. I know that is your fever dream, that you think you're going to somehow denaturalize and deport him.
They declared Jay Jones the winning.
Jay Jones is now officially the winner. There you go. Thank you, Jason, very much. There we go. That's a big deal.
If you add up Cuomo and Sliwa, they don't equal what Mamdani got as of now. So
that's very true.
That's an important thing. And I saw the exit poll, black voters went for Zoran a big chunk. Maybe it was about 12, 15 points he beat Cuomo by in that. So that's really, and he put his time in. Zoran went, Reverend Allen, others all over the community, all over New York after the primary, because he had not done as well, the black community. And it paid off. People are giving him, they want to see him deliver. Now we're going to see the corporate Democrats stand in their way. That's the problem. Mayor of New York is not governor of New York.
Right.
You have to go to New York, governor and the state assembly and Senate to get approval of things you want to do on so much. And people are not going to be aware of that. That's going to be the challenge for Zoran.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and
right.
We should note that the economy of the New York metro area is equivalent to the economy of Canada.
Wow.
This 34-year-old young man who's going to be the mayor of, it's almost a city state, New York City. It operates almost like a city state. Donald Trump says he's going to, as president, not want to send money to New York City. Bullshit. Wall Street is in New York City. He's not going to do anything because New York City is the financial capital of the United States. He has to deal with Zoran Mamdani, but he won't be able to operate freely in terms of immigration raids. You're now going to have the cop in town. It's not going to be the mayor who's got legal issues and you can bribe him and push him around as you had with bling bling mayor Eric Adams. Now you're going to have somebody with some integrity and who has to answer to a very young and a very anticipatory young audience who expects him to do big things. I think it's a huge deal. It's one of the biggest deals in American politics in the modern era. I want to thank everybody. Let me give you all the last word. If anybody's got a last thought, Maurice Mitchell, your thought.
Well, I think number one, I'm looking towards the governing project that's going to take place in New York and the governing mandate that Zoran has. And it's true that there's going to have to be a lot of conversations in Albany, but again, Albany is going to have a mayor that is aligned with Zoran, as well as Buffalo, as well as Syracuse. And there's going to be a statewide appetite for more revenue from these billionaires. And I call bullshit on all the billionaires and multimillionaires that were whining about the fact that they were going to leave. Listen, part of being a billionaire is living wherever the hell you want. And they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere.
First of all, Maurice, I'm sorry to cut you. They live in New York part-time because they have homes all over the world. And if you go to Millionaire Mile in Midtown Manhattan, most of those beautiful high-rises are empty most of the year because they're in Dubai. They don't even live there. So the idea that we're going to leave, no, you're not. You're going to, and by the way, if you do, it will drop real estate prices to where regular folks can buy brownstones and beauty. So please go. If you're going to go, just make sure that you discount the price of your properties, because some of us would love to go and buy real estate in New York. So please leave it for us. I'm sorry. Continue.
Absolutely. And then the last thing is, you know, the Zoran victory, as well as some of the other victories tonight, I think demonstrate the power of when somebody articulates something to vote for, right? So a lot of the messaging inside of the traditional Democratic Party, a lot of the messaging in 2024 was fear-based, how bad Donald Trump was, how bad MAGA was, right? And actually giving people something to vote for, it turns out it really matters.
Amen. Dean Ovidala, last thought.
I'm very excited. The idea that Democrats are going to fight. I think they're going to embrace this populism that Zoran's talked about. It's a good populism, fighting for the working class. And you have to term it as class warfare. FDR had no problem embracing class warfare. Go back to the roots of the Democratic Party. We're a party that believes in the government can help people. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of helping people. Don't be afraid of saying the wealthy got to pay their fair share and getting big money out of politics. So, look, I think it's a great day. It's been a tough year. Let's be blunt. It's been a tough year with Trump. We've been fighting every day. He's aging me. Look, I'm 21 years old. Look what he's done to me. I look like this. So I'm kidding. I'm not 21. I'm much older. The point is, though, this is a great night. Let's savor it and let it propel us, I hope, to bigger victories going forward.
I will announce that now Zoran Mamdani, as we reach the 10 o'clock hour Eastern Standard Time, is at 999,313 votes. He is just shy of that million votes. He is going to get to the million. 87% of the votes in. Zoran Mamdani will be the first New York mayor to be elected with more than 1 million votes in 2 generations since John Lindsay. Even David Dinkins, who we loved, didn't get 1 million. Even Rudy Giuliani, people think of him as America's mayor. I hate that a Black woman named him that. He never got 1 million votes. Mayor Ed Koch never got 1 million votes. This is going to be the most popularly elected mayor, Mark Thompson, in the history of New York. And he's going to be an object lesson for Democrats who I wonder if they'll now even feel free to say, you know, free Palestine, stop killing Palestinian children. You can actually say end the genocide and you know, free Palestine. It's perfectly fine. The water is fine. You're allowed to stand against the genocide. It don't hurt. You might even win. Go ahead, Mark. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. Amen. Yeah. Oh, 100%.
That's it.
No. No. Yes. Do not make the same mistake that people made when Barack Obama won his election in 2008 and people thought the work was over. They didn't need to show up in the midterms. There was nothing else to do. Recall that the Flint water crisis happened because after 60% some odd turnout in Michigan in that midterm, it dropped to 40%. People did not show up, and Republicans took over Michigan, and Flint happened because with a black president, with Barack Obama sitting in the White House, people thought that there was nothing else to do, and they did not show up. 2010 was an Armageddon event for the Democratic Party. It was a census year, and Democrats laid back and said, let Obama handle it. He's got this. We're just excited to have him. And they let it all slip away. The Democrats, by the way, when Barack Obama came in and finally Al Franken won that contested race in Minnesota, Democrats had 60 votes in the Senate. It's the only reason you got Obamacare. And they let all of it slip away. They let it all go. And by 2014, African Americans lost more political power in the 2014 election than they did since the 1960s. Majority of black state elected officials were serving in majority legislatures. It was the South did not flip in 1968. It flipped in 2014. Do the math. When the South finally went to the Republicans, it was in 2014 because voters sat back and said, Obama is some sort of mad magician and he's just going to do things without our help. That ain't how it works. Now the work begins. You've got your Democratic governors in Virginia, New Jersey. You got an attorney general and a lieutenant governor. You got a full Democratic slate in Virginia. You retain Democratic control in New Jersey. You now have a Democratic mayor of New York. And you've got a lot of great victories, Democrats. But the work, as Mark said, has just begun, as all of these panelists have said. Now your work truly begins because you have to deliver. Because if you don't deliver, the American people are quite fickle and they get real mad. Ask Donald Trump where his approval ratings are because he ain't delivered on none of the stuff he said he was going to do.
We want to thank Leslie Hauser for the $50 tip.
Leslie Hauser, thank you for the tip. We appreciate it. Let's let our guests go to their evenings. Dean Obeidallah of the Great Dean Obeidallah Show on SiriusXM. You're going to want to watch that at all times and stick with it. Maurice Mitchell of the Working Families Party, probably my new party soon. I'll probably make an official announcement on the Joy Reid Show sometime soon as I convert over to your side. And my co-host, my co-host on tonight, I said, can you do an hour? And then I just kept him for a second hour. It literally was a hostage situation, but Mark's my friend. So he did. Thank you so much, Mark Thompson, the Reverend
Thank you,
Mark
brother
Thompson.
Mark.
Thank you so much to everybody in the chat. I want to thank you, Mark. Let's thank all of our